Welcome to our deep dive into the world of Bitcoin. You've sent over some really interesting research and articles about how some pretty big names, political figures, and corporations are shaping Bitcoin's future.
Mhm.
We're going to be looking at Trump's economic policies,
Good.
Elon Musk's advocacy, corporate investment trends, and some predictions about Bitcoin reaching mainstream adoption
Interesting.
by 2025. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a fascinating intersection.
Yeah.
Really is. Of technology and finance, even politics.
Absolutely. It's a lot to unpack. So, what are some of the big, I guess, the most important insights that we can pull from these sources?
Well, one thing that really stands out is this idea that Trump's economic policies, especially deregulation,
Yeah.
might have created a better environment for Bitcoin to grow.
Yeah, that's interesting. The sources suggest that Bitcoin, with its decentralized nature, really aligns with certain libertarian values, that emphasize individual liberty and limited government intervention.
Right.
And some argue that Trump's policies, like tax cuts and deregulation, kind of inadvertently fostered a space
Yeah.
where those values and therefore Bitcoin could thrive.
Yeah, it's a nuanced point.
Yeah.
You have to remember that Bitcoin's really proponents often saw it as a way to challenge traditional financial systems.
Hmm.
Trump's push for deregulation in other sectors like energy and finance kind of echoes this
Yeah.
sentiment of reducing government control.
Right.
And it's not necessarily about him directly endorsing Bitcoin,
Yeah.
but it's more like a shared philosophy that kind of sees less government as a good thing.
Right. But the source material also points out that deregulation isn't like a magic bullet, right? It can lead to innovation,
Oh, of course.
but it also carries risks.
Yeah, less regulation. I mean, there can be more volatility in the market, fewer protections for investors.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off that's
Yeah.
hotly debated even within the Bitcoin community.
So is there any evidence to suggest that Trump's policies actually directly impacted Bitcoin adoption during his presidency?
Well, the research shows a noticeable increase for sure in Bitcoin adoption during Trump's term,
Okay.
especially when he, made comments that could be seen as supportive of digital currencies.
Hmm.
For example, there was a surge in trading activity
Oh, wow.
after he tweeted about the potential for cryptocurrencies to disrupt traditional finance.
Hmm.
However, it's really difficult to isolate the specific impact
Right.
of his policies from other factors
Hmm.
that were influencing the market at the time.
Fair enough. Yeah. It seems like the relationship between Trump's presidency and Bitcoin is complex.
It is.
A lot of different factors at play.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another powerful figure in the Bitcoin world,
Okay.
Elon Musk. We all know how his tweets can move markets, but the source material argues that his influence on Bitcoin goes much deeper.
Absolutely. His advocacy has brought a level of legitimacy and mainstream attention
Yeah.
to Bitcoin that it hadn't really seen before.
Yeah, the sources highlight Tesla's $1.5 billion Bitcoin purchase as like a pivotal moment.
That was huge.
It wasn't just a financial investment.
No.
It was a signal to the world that Bitcoin was a serious asset
Definitely.
worthy of consideration by major corporations.
Absolutely. And that sent ripples through the entire financial world.
Yeah.
Suddenly, institutional investors, corporate boardrooms were taking Bitcoin seriously,
Wow.
something that was unthinkable just a few years prior.
Yeah.
Musk's influence, coupled with Tesla's investment,
Yeah.
made Bitcoin a topic of conversation at the highest levels of finance.
But the sources also point out that Musk's relationship with Bitcoin isn't always positive, right?
Why?
He's expressed concerns about the energy consumption
Yeah.
associated with Bitcoin mining, and that's drawn criticism from some within the crypto community.
Well, what's interesting here is that Musk's criticism, it isn't aimed at shutting down Bitcoin. It's about pushing the industry towards more sustainable practices. He's been very vocal about the need for renewable energy sources to power Bitcoin mining. He's even invested in companies that are developing more energy-efficient mining technologies.
So he's not like abandoning Bitcoin. He's trying to steer its development
Exactly.
in a more environmentally responsible direction.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, actually. Is this an example of his influence driving positive change
Possibly.
within the Bitcoin ecosystem?
It's certainly possible, yeah. His outspokenness about the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining has put a lot of pressure on the industry to address these concerns. It's sparked a conversation about sustainability that's likely to have a lasting impact on how Bitcoin is mined in the future.
Okay, so we've talked about the impact of individuals like
Yeah.
Trump and Musk, but let's zoom out a little bit
Right.
and look at the role of corporations.
All right.
The sources highlight a massive wave of corporate investment in Bitcoin, with companies like Tesla and MicroStrategy leading the charge.
Yeah, MicroStrategy's holdings are particularly noteworthy.
Oh, yeah.
They've amassed over 100,000 Bitcoins.
Wow.
That's a massive bet on its future. This goes far beyond simply, dipping their toes into the crypto waters.
Yeah.
It's a full-fledged commitment
Yeah.
to Bitcoin as a strategic asset.
And it's not just about holding Bitcoin. Companies are also exploring ways to integrate blockchain technology, the technology behind Bitcoin,
Right.
into their operations. The source material mentions how, like, IBM and Walmart are using blockchain to streamline their supply chains, improve transparency, and reduce costs.
These are real-world examples of how blockchain is moving beyond just, the realm of theory
Yeah.
and into practical applications.
Yeah.
By integrating this technology, these companies are signaling their belief in its potential to transform various industries.
Hmm. The sources suggest that this wave of corporate investment could be a key driver of Bitcoin's mainstream adoption. The logic is that as more established companies embrace Bitcoin, it'll gain more credibility and legitimacy in the eyes of the public and institutional investors.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that's a valid argument?
There are certainly parallels to how corporations embraced the internet in its early days.
Hmm.
Initial skepticism gave way to widespread adoption as companies realized the transformative potential of the technology.
Yeah.
It's plausible that we're witnessing a similar shift with Bitcoin.
Hmm.
As more corporations invest in Bitcoin and blockchain technology,
Uh-huh.
it reinforces this narrative that this is a paradigm shift in finance and technology.
It's interesting to think about how these corporate actions are not only shaping Bitcoin's present, but also influencing its future trajectory.
And this brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Its decentralized nature.
Yeah.
Early research saw this as a revolutionary challenge to the established financial system. The idea was that Bitcoin could empower individuals by reducing their reliance on traditional banks and institutions.
Yeah.
Is this vision of a decentralized financial system becoming a reality?
The source material highlights real-world examples of this happening right now.
Oh, wow.
In developing countries where access to traditional banking is often limited,
Yeah.
Bitcoin is providing a way for people to participate in the global economy.
Mhm.
It's giving them control over their finances in a way that was previously impossible.
And we're also seeing the rise of DeFi, or decentralized finance, which is essentially a parallel financial system built on blockchain technology.
Mm.
DeFi platforms allow people to lend, borrow, and invest without relying on traditional banks.
Hmm.
The data shows that billions of dollars are already flowing through these DeFi systems, indicating a growing appetite for decentralized financial solutions.
So the vision of a more decentralized financial system isn't just some utopian ideal. It's happening right now in different ways and on different scales.
Precisely. Bitcoin and the blockchain technology it's built on are challenging the very foundations of finance,
Yeah.
and the implications are far-reaching.
That's an incredibly thought-provoking point. It seems like Bitcoin is more than just a digital currency. It's a catalyst for a broader conversation about how we manage and control our finances.
It certainly is, and that conversation is only going to get more intense as Bitcoin continues to gain traction,
Yeah.
and its influence on the global financial system grows.
Well, that's a lot to digest already, and we've only scratched the surface of this deep dive. Are you ready to explore some of the research methodologies and see what they reveal about Bitcoin's future?
Absolutely. Let's delve into the data and see what insights we can uncover. All right, you ready to dive a little deeper into the world of Bitcoin research?
Absolutely. I'm fascinated by how these researchers approach such a complex and always evolving subject.
Yeah.
The source material mentions that they used kind of a multifaceted approach, combining financial reports, market analysis, and even surveys. Right.
Can you break down how this approach helped them paint a more complete picture of Bitcoin's trajectory?
Yeah, it's like piecing together a puzzle.
Okay.
Each data source provides a different piece of the story.
Mm-hmm.
For example, financial reports from cryptocurrency exchanges like Coinbase
Right.
gave them insights into user engagement, transaction volumes, and the overall sentiment within the crypto community.
So it's not just about the raw numbers, but it's also about the narrative
Yeah.
that these key players are shaping around Bitcoin.
Exactly.
What were some of the key takeaways from these reports?
Well, the reports generally painted a pretty bullish picture of Bitcoin's future,
Hmm.
highlighting its growing adoption and integration into traditional financial systems.
Yeah.
They pointed to increasing institutional interest,
Hmm.
the development of new financial products like Bitcoin ETFs,
Right.
and a general sense that the market was maturing.
It feels like they were observing the same trends that we discussed earlier.
Yeah, but from a more insider perspective.
Exactly. These reports offer a glimpse into the thinking of those who are, shaping the crypto landscape.
Right.
It's like having a backstage pass to the world of Bitcoin.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So financial reports from exchanges provided one piece of the puzzle. What other data sources did they tap into?
Well, they also analyzed regulatory filings
Okay.
from companies that have invested heavily in Bitcoin, like Tesla, MicroStrategy, and Square.
Hmm.
These filings offer valuable insights into, the motivations behind these investments
Yeah.
and the corporate world's evolving perspective on Bitcoin.
So they weren't just throwing money at Bitcoin. They had strategic reasons for doing so.
Absolutely. These filings often detail the rationale behind these investments, outlining, their long-term outlooks and overall sentiment towards Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's clear that many corporations see Bitcoin as more than just a speculative asset.
Yeah.
They view it as a potential game changer
Yeah.
in the financial world.
That's interesting. It adds another layer of legitimacy to the whole Bitcoin phenomenon.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have insights from exchanges and corporations.
Okay.
What about the market itself? Did they analyze price trends and other market indicators?
Of course. They used various analytical tools to delve into, historical and current market data. They track price movements, trading volumes, and even on-chain metrics,
Okay.
which are essentially data points derived from the Bitcoin blockchain itself.
On-chain metrics.
Yeah.
Can you give us a non-technical explanation of what those are and why they're important?
Sure. Imagine you're a detective investigating a crime.
Okay.
You look for clues like fingerprints or footprints
Mm.
to piece together what happened.
Right.
On-chain metrics are like digital footprints on the Bitcoin blockchain. They can reveal things like the number of active Bitcoin addresses,
Yep.
the frequency of transactions, and even the flow of Bitcoin between different wallets.
So it's like tracking the movement of Bitcoin to understand how people are using it and how the network is growing.
Yeah.
What were some of the key insights that they gained from analyzing these on-chain metrics?
Well, the data suggested that the Bitcoin network was becoming increasingly active with more users, more transactions, and a growing number of businesses accepting Bitcoin as payment.
Yeah.
This provided further evidence that Bitcoin was gaining traction and moving beyond the realm of niche technology.
That makes sense. It's like watching a city grow and expand as more people move in and businesses set up shop.
Exactly.
Okay, so they've got data from exchanges,
Yeah.
corporations, and the market itself.
Right.
What about the human element? Did they talk to actual people about Bitcoin?
They did. They conducted surveys
Uh-huh.
between 2023 and 2025,
Yeah.
targeting a diverse group of stakeholders,
Yeah.
including industry leaders, investors, policymakers, and everyday users.
I'm glad they included everyday users in their research.
Yeah.
It's important to understand how Bitcoin is impacting people on the ground level, not just those in the financial and tech worlds. What did they learn from these surveys?
The surveys revealed a growing awareness and acceptance of Bitcoin, even among those who weren't, directly involved in the crypto world. People were becoming more familiar with Bitcoin, more curious about its potential, and more open to the idea of using it in their daily lives.
So it's not just the tech enthusiasts and early adopters anymore.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is starting to penetrate the mainstream consciousness.
Precisely. And this shift in public perception is crucial for Bitcoin's long-term success. As more people become comfortable with the idea of digital currencies, the barriers to adoption are likely to decrease.
It's like the early days of the internet or mobile phones. At first, they were seen as novelties or niche technologies, but then they gradually became indispensable parts of our lives.
Right.
It sounds like Bitcoin might be on a similar trajectory.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And the research supports that view. The surveys showed that people are increasingly seeing Bitcoin as a legitimate form of money,
Mm.
a viable investment,
Yeah.
and a potential solution to some of the problems with traditional financial systems.
Okay, so they've gathered all this data
Uh,
from a variety of sources, but how did they make sense of it all?
yeah.
The source material mentions they use some pretty sophisticated statistical methods to analyze the data and,
Right.
and draw conclusions. Can you give us kind of a layman's explanation of how they approached the analysis?
Sure. They were trying to understand the relationships
Uh-huh.
between different factors that might influence Bitcoin's adoption and market performance.
Mm-hmm.
For example, they wanted to know if government policies on cryptocurrency regulation had a measurable impact on Bitcoin's price or adoption rate.
Okay.
To do this, they used a statistical technique called regression analysis.
Regression analysis, that sounds complicated.
It can be,
Yeah.
but the basic idea is relatively straightforward.
Okay.
Imagine imagine you're trying to figure out if there's a relationship between the amount of rainfall and the growth of a plant.
Okay.
You might collect data on both variables
Oh, okay.
and plot them on a graph.
Okay.
If you see a pattern like more rainfall leading to taller plants,
Right.
then you might conclude that there's a positive correlation between the two variables.
Yeah.
Regression analysis is a more sophisticated way of doing this,
Mhm.
but the principle is the same.
Okay.
You're looking for patterns and relationships in the data.
So in this case, they were looking for patterns that might connect things like government policies, corporate actions, and Bitcoin's market performance.
Exactly. And they used regression analysis
Hmm.
to determine the strength and nature of these relationships.
Mm-hmm.
They also used descriptive statistics to summarize the data and identify trends.
Okay.
For example, they might have calculated the average price of Bitcoin over a certain period,
Right.
or the percentage of survey respondents who own Bitcoin.
So it was a combination of sophisticated statistical analysis
Right.
and more straightforward data summaries.
Precisely. They used the right tools for the job to ensure that their analysis was robust and reliable.
Mm. Okay.
And they didn't stop there. They
Yeah.
they also validated their methods by referencing relevant research from the field of cryptocurrency studies,
Mm.
ensuring they were using accepted practices and building on existing knowledge.
It sounds like they took a very thorough and rigorous approach to their research.
They did, yeah.
So after all this data gathering and analysis, what did they actually discover? What were some of their key findings?
Well, their findings were quite illuminating
Okay.
and provided some valuable insights into how political and corporate forces are shaping the Bitcoin landscape.
Mhm.
But before we get into those details,
Sure.
let's shift gears for a moment and talk about something that often gets overlooked in the world of Bitcoin,
Okay.
the human impact.
Okay. I'm intrigued. We've talked a lot about the technology, the
Yeah.
investments,
Yeah.
the market trends, but what about the people? How is Bitcoin affecting their lives?
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in all the technical stuff and the financial implications.
Forget-
But at the end of the day, Bitcoin is interacting with real people's lives.
It is.
So what are some of the ways that it's making a difference?
Well, one of the most significant impacts is in the realm of financial inclusion.
The source material highlights how Bitcoin is empowering people in developing countries where access to traditional banking services is often very limited.
Yeah, that's something we talked about earlier.
Right.
Bitcoin can bypass the traditional financial infrastructure,
Exactly.
allowing people to send and receive money across borders without relying on banks.
It can, yeah. And this is a game changer
Yeah.
for many people who have been excluded from the global financial system.
Mm.
It gives them access to financial services,
Yeah,
allows them to participate in the digital economy,
right.
and provides a way to protect their savings from inflation and currency devaluation.
It's like opening up a whole new world of possibilities
Yeah.
for people who have been underserved by traditional financial institutions.
Yeah.
The sources also mention the potential for Bitcoin to revolutionize remittances,
No,
the money that people send back home to their families in other countries.
that's right. Traditional remittance services often charge like exorbitant fees eating into the hard-earned money
Yeah.
that people are sending to their loved ones.
Right.
Bitcoin offers a a much cheaper and faster alternative,
Mm.
allowing more of that money to reach its intended destination.
So it's not just about making financial transactions more efficient. It's about empowering people
I think
and
so.
improving their lives in intangible ways.
Yeah.
The source material also delves into the potential for Bitcoin to disrupt the the existing power structures in finance.
Hmm.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Remember, Bitcoin was born out of a distrust of centralized authorities,
Hmm.
a desire for a more transparent and equitable financial system.
Yeah.
Early research envisioned it as a tool for challenging the dominance of central banks and traditional financial institutions.
And as Bitcoin gains mainstream acceptance,
Yeah.
that vision is becoming less of a dream and more of a possibility.
Exactly. If you're holding Bitcoin, you're participating in a financial system that operates independently of governments and central banks.
Hmm.
You're essentially opting out of the traditional financial system
Yeah.
and embracing a decentralized alternative.
It's like taking control of your financial destiny,
It is.
removing the middleman
Right.
and becoming your own bank in a sense.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this shift in power dynamics has the potential to disrupt the established financial order in profound ways.
Yeah.
It raises questions about, the role of central banks, the nature of money,
Right.
and the very foundations of the global financial system.
That's a lot to grapple with.
It is.
It's no wonder that governments and central banks around the world are watching Bitcoin's rise with a mix of curiosity and concern.
Absolutely. The source material acknowledges that regulatory uncertainty is one of the biggest challenges facing Bitcoin. We're seeing a wide range of approaches from different countries,
Yeah.
from outright bans to cautious embrace.
Hmm.
It's a rapidly evolving landscape,
Right.
and it's unclear how it will all play out in the long run.
It seems like governments and central banks are facing a dilemma.
They are.
Do they try to control Bitcoin, regulate it out of existence?
Yeah.
Or do they embrace its potential and find ways to integrate it into existing systems?
Those are the two paths that seem to be emerging, and both have their own set of challenges and opportunities.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating time to be observing this intersection of technology, finance, and politics.
It makes you wonder what will the future hold for Bitcoin? The source material makes a bold prediction about mainstream adoption by 2025. Do you think that's realistic?
It's certainly an ambitious timeline, but the evidence suggests that it's not entirely out of reach.
Okay.
We're seeing growing public awareness,
Yeah.
increasing institutional investment, and constant technological advancements that are making Bitcoin more accessible and user-friendly.
They paint a picture of a future where Bitcoin ETFs are commonplace.
Right.
Merchants readily accept Bitcoin payments, and even your retirement portfolio might include a slice of this digital pie.
It's a vision of a future where Bitcoin is no longer a niche technology,
Yeah.
but an integral part of the global financial system.
Mm.
And while there are still hurdles to overcome, the momentum seems to be building.
It's both exciting and a little daunting to think about the potential implications of such a dramatic shift in the financial landscape.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this deep dive, there's one final point from the source material that I found particularly thought-provoking.
I'm all ears. What caught your attention?
They talk about how Bitcoin's scarcity could actually become its greatest strength, especially in a world of increasing economic uncertainty.
Yeah. Yes. Remember, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins mined.
Right.
That fixed supply stands in stark contrast to fiat currencies, which governments can print at will,
Right.
potentially leading to inflation and a loss of purchasing power.
And with inflation on the rise globally, a lot of people are looking for ways to protect their wealth from being eroded.
Exactly. Bitcoin, with its limited supply and decentralized nature, is seen by many as a hedge against inflation,
Yeah.
a store of value that's immune to the whims of central banks and government policies.
It's like digital gold, a finite resource that people can hold on to as a safeguard against economic uncertainty.
That's a good analogy, and as we navigate this era of unprecedented economic and technological change,
Yeah.
Bitcoin's Bitcoin's unique properties are likely to become even more appealing to individuals and institutions alike.
Well, that's an incredibly insightful way to end our deep dive into the world of Bitcoin. We've explored its origins, its evolution,
It's been quite a journey.
its potential to empower individuals, disrupt industries, and reshape the global financial system.
It certainly has. And
Yeah.
and the journey is far from over.
Yeah.
Bitcoin continues to evolve, and its impact on our world is only beginning to unfold.
Thanks for guiding us through this complex and fascinating landscape.
My pleasure. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.